Hey everybody, Alan Weber from the Mayor's Office on a cloudy Thursday afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. A lot of stuff to talk about today and not a lot of time to do it in, so I'm going to talk a little quickly. First thing is not good news. Yesterday we had 5 positive cases spike in Santa Fe County. 5. It's a huge increase over what we've been seeing over the last week to 10 days, where it's been 0, 0, 1, or 2. We went to 5 yesterday. That is a large spike, and I'm worried that in spite of the fact that the governor said statewide she thought the numbers were leveling off, and Santa Fe County had been the leading county in terms of clamping down on coronavirus, practicing social distancing, being sure that when we go out, we have our masks on, making sure that we wash our hands, making sure that we are very cautious when we have an errand to run, notwithstanding the fact that we've been leading New Mexico and the governor says we're leveling off. Yesterday we did not level off. Yesterday 5 new cases, and the danger is that every single one of those new cases was in contact with 3 or more other people, and so we could see a spike in the days ahead. The statistics tell us, the data tell us that we really won't peak out as a state probably until the 3rd week of May. Now the governor said yesterday, good news, it's flattening statewide, and she was continuing her stay-at-home order until May 15th, and she'd be working with an economic recovery team to come up with a process for looking at ways to relax where it's appropriate. But I have to say I'm very concerned. There is data from other parts of the world, including Singapore, where the second wave of infection was worse than the first wave. And so while we can be proud of what we've done up till now, we really can't get complacent. We can't assume that we've won this battle with COVID-19. So please remember, I'm going to go over it one more time. When you go out to run an essential errand, the grocery store, the supermarket, pharmacies, please take along and wear your mask. Please wash your hands before you go out and when you come home. Please stay 6 feet apart. Please do your very, very best to avoid interaction with other people insofar as you can. Same goes for the other thing the governor has allowed under her order, and that is getting safe exercise. If you're on a trail or at a park, no more than 5 people in a group, 6 feet apart, wearing masks. If you're on a trail and you're jogging, be very mindful that the little particles can go out feet ahead of you or behind you and accidentally infect somebody else, and you don't have to have symptoms to have coronavirus. So be polite, be respectful, wear a mask on the trail, keep 6 feet distance. If you're walking a dog or you've got your pets with you, make sure they're on a leash. Very important to maintain that so that people aren't freaked out or suddenly surprised by a dog running up on them, and keep social distance even when you're in a physical fitness regime. Big mistake yesterday. Big mistake. It was Earth Day, and I was so focused on coronavirus and fiscal crisis, I forgot to wish Mother Earth a happy birthday. Earth Day in New Mexico is a big deal. If you're into Googling factoids, go back and look at the Life magazine photographic story about the very first Earth Day. Take a look very closely at one of the figures in the photograph. See if you can identify the resident of New Mexico who is wearing a beret and one of the founders of Earth Day in that Life magazine iconic photograph. Whoever comes up with the first answer to who was that person sends me an email, gets a prize in the mail. But see if you can find out. It's something for New Mexico to be very proud of. Earth Day, founder from New Mexico, photograph in Life magazine. Back quickly to the COVID story. I was on a call this morning again. Every Thursday there's a platform sponsored by the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Kennedy School of Government, Harvard Business School, Johns Hopkins, and Bloomberg Philanthropies with mayors from all over the country. I thought I'd share some of their comments this morning. Some of it has to do with the financial crisis, some of it has to do with the public health crisis. A big need across the country is for contact tracers. Like I said, we had 5 cases yesterday, positive tested. Who did they contact while they were sick but had not yet come down with the symptoms? Across America, there are very important jobs for contact tracing and a contact tracing corps. Nancy Pelosi, the speaker, was on our call this morning. They are putting money into the current bill that is being made a law that will set aside $100 billion for hospitals and testing, $10 billion for small business grants that don't need to be repaid, $60 billion for loans, disaster loans for small businesses, and a $60 billion set aside for people in communities who are underbanked and wouldn't have access to loans if they didn't have this special set aside. The topic changed then to Dr. Scharfstein from the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. He mentioned this second shutdown that Singapore is experiencing. His comment was, if we open up too quickly, we will be like pouring gas on a fire that is slowly burning down. So we have to be very, very careful. There is evidence now that says for every positive test, there are 30 or 40 other cases that were never tested. So the statistics may be wildly off in terms of how many people in any community may have had or still do have the virus but haven't been tested. The largest group that is at risk are senior citizens. Across America, 80% of all deaths from the coronavirus are people who are 65 years and older. In our nursing homes, there are 4,900 nursing homes with COVID-19 outbreaks and already 10,300 deaths. The recommendation was that mayors across the city create response teams to help nursing homes adhere to the CDC guidelines, create conference calls between that response team and the nursing homes, and address staffing levels with volunteers who could help touch base with the seniors who need support and help. Even as we're worried about people's health, being alone and isolated can be just as devastating as a case of COVID-19. Then we went into a discussion about leadership in a time of crisis. And a teacher from the Harvard School of Business taught us a case study about the trip to Antarctica led by Sir Ernest Shackleton. And she quoted one of my favorite presidents, Abraham Lincoln, who said to the Congress at one point in the early days of the Civil War, "As our case is new, we must think anew." And that's what we're trying to do every day as we come up with ways to both fight the coronavirus and solve our city's financial crisis. Across the country, cities are in trouble. A number of mayors volunteered their situation. Fort Collins, Colorado is furloughing 600 workers. Minneapolis, Minnesota has a budget shortfall of between $100 and $200 million. Albany, New York, a budget shortfall between $28 and $32 million. The U.S. Conference of Mayors is collecting data from across America on how the mayors of this country are making the case to the Congress that we need help from the federal government. So far, I've spoken with both Congressman Ben Ray Lujan and yesterday with our Senator Martin Heinrich. Senator Heinrich has been fighting in the Senate against a implacable Mitch McConnell, who refuses to send any help to our cities. The same goes for President Trump's team around him in the White House. They absolutely won't put money for cities into bailout measures or emergency help measures so far. And so across America, something like 2,100 cities are having to come up with their own plans, often involving furloughs, sometimes involving out-and-out layoffs, complete cutting of jobs. Here in Santa Fe, we are trying to take it as small as we can. We have put a freeze on hiring, we've put a freeze on spending and overtime, and we are asking the City Council to adopt a plan that will put an across-the-board 4-hour per week furlough on everybody from top management on down. Already, several members of the City Council have said, put me on that furlough too. I've put 30% of my salary back into the city's coffers. This is a time of sacrifice. We have people in our city, more than 8,000 in Santa Fe County, who are currently on unemployment compensation. They're not furloughed, they are laid off. And so as we face the aftershock from the COVID-19 public health crisis, and it turns into a financial crisis for the city, we all have to sacrifice and work together. That's what we'll be bringing to the City Council next week, looking for their help, looking for their support, working with the union, AFSCME, working with the police union, the fire union, working with members of our city family who are not affiliated with a union, but who are valuable, important parts of our city employee base. The truth is that there are a number of our facilities that have been shut down. They're closed. Whether we're talking about a rec center, a library, our public garages are not opening and operating. So with that reality, we have to make some very hard and unpleasant decisions about cutting back on the 66% of our budget that goes to salaries and benefits. We want to do it in as small a measure as we can, with the hope that if we can get through the end of this fiscal year, the end of June, we'll see where we are. We'll know much more about whether the governor's plan to open things back up is starting to lift the economy, bring gross receipts tax to the city, and allows us to keep our people employed in jobs with salaries. That's our goal. That about sums it up for where we are on a Thursday afternoon. It's a little cloudy out, but I hear the birds outside. It's a beautiful day, as always, in Santa Fe. If you have to be sheltering in place, what's a better place to do it than Santa Fe? If you need food, order locally. If you need things that you can buy that are for sale, do it locally. We need to continue to do everything we can to support our local merchants, our local restaurants, all of our local operations here. The governor is clear. She's going to gradually loosen up. We're seeing nurseries now allowed to sell curbside. That's a good step to help that segment of our business community. She's going to continue to make those decisions week by week. She said that yesterday. We'll be helping, if we can, to guide those decisions. It's the single most important thing we can do other than stopping the spread of the coronavirus. I'll be looking at the numbers at the end of today to see whether 5 is down again to where it needs to be, 0, 1, or 2, or if we are in danger of seeing an upswing based on people, all of us, thinking that we had this thing won. It's not won. It's not over. We haven't broken the back of the coronavirus, not yet. And even after we think we have, the lesson from public health experts all over the country is don't get complacent. don't think we're gonna go back to business as usual. I was thinking this morning about what it was like to fly on an airplane before 9/11. We didn't have TSA, we didn't take off our shoes, we could go straight to the gate. If our family was flying in, we'd meet them at the gate. Now we take it for granted that because the world changed on 9/11, we have to be careful. I think the world is changing from COVID-19, and going forward, we have to be careful. Even if we think we've won the battle, we need to continue to have our face masks and wear them. We need to continue to wash our hands and use hand sanitizer. We need to get used to the idea of social spacing and social distancing. As we open up, we won't be opening up full bore. There will be precautions in place. So think hard about how do we stay safe, how do we support our local businesses, and then as the summer advances, how do we begin to gradually open up, put some people back to work, see the economy begin to pick up. That's what we're aiming for in a very cautious, careful way. Right now, knock wood, we have 0 fatalities from coronavirus in Santa Fe County. Let's keep it that way. Let's make it all the way through this journey to beat coronavirus with 0 deaths from coronavirus. That's the single most important statistic. If we get through this and nobody in Santa Fe County has become a fatality because of this horrible disease, we will be able to say that as a community, we practice great caution, great compassion, and great courage. Thanks a lot for listening and watching. I will see you tomorrow. Take care of yourself, stay healthy, stay safe, and to the greatest extent possible, please stay home.